Hello, everybody. My name is Sean, and welcome back. I'm still not making that lamp. It is still a work in progress. I'm dragging my butt. It's been 2 years now. Anyway, hope you guys are all doing well. It's been quite a while since I last posted a video about something I was making, but it's been pandemic-y, and kind of haven't really been in the mood to record myself making. It's been more of a quiet, meditative process for me. I hope you'll forgive me. I made quite a few things. I posted on my Instagram. I'll put a link below if you haven't seen. The most recent thing I did actually was a wire bonsai, which was absolutely amazing. And I'm actually really proud of that one. But the next thing that I'm going to work on, and it's kind of time sensitive, so I don't know when I'll have time to edit this, so you'll see it. Hopefully it'll come out about the time that I need it to the gift to get there, because what I'm going to work on next is actually a gift for a friend of mine. I'm going to make a pun. And I hope she enjoys it. It's for her birthday. I am very pleased with how brilliant I am, and at the same vein understand that I am a sick man who has problems, because only I find this funny, but I'm hoping she'll find it funny too. And that is the important thing, is I want something to make her smile. I want something to make her laugh. Oh my god, my turtle is currently sleeping on the rock and it's adorable. Sorry, I was distracted there. She's just so cute cuddled up to it. So what am I making? What horrible thing have I birthed from the realms of hell from my mind? And to answer your question, I'm going to make a teacup Kraken in a cracking teacup. It's horrible. I love it, and I'm a sick man, I know. So the plan is I'm going to take this teacup I found at a thrift store for $1. I'm going to smash it, and I'm going to glue it back together, and I'm going to make sure I leave like a segment open, and the idea is I'll have an eye looking through. I think I figured out most of it, but I'll be using the teacup, some paints, polymer clay, this coil of copper wire I found cleaning. I don't know what it's from, but I'm going to use this to make the a frame for the tentacles, because the idea is I'm going to have the eye looking through. We're going to fill the cup with resin, and I'm going to have tentacles coming up out of the cup. So it'll be like a teacup, like a teacup poodle. I'm not going to explain it because it makes the pun even worse. But the point is, I'm really excited to do this. I had another idea. I was going to do because of her love of horses, I was going to do a hippocampus, and then I realized I have literally no skill in sculpting, and that strikes me as something that would be difficult. So we're not going to do that. In the end, we're going to stick with something simpler that I think she'll still enjoy, that I'm going to be super proud of, and I'm actually kind of excited to do. So I'm going to take you guys along the adventure and the insanity of what I'm going to do. I give myself like 4 days to get this done. Given my previous track record of trying to get things done on time, it might be like October, usually 3 months. 3 months sounds about right for me. Anyway, guys, hopefully you're excited to see this. I'm excited to do it. And win or lose, success or fail, I think it's going to be a fun process. And that's the important thing, is to have a good time while doing it. Yeah, hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in a sec.
Alright, so I started off by painting just a black little stripe within the eye. I wanted to simulate an octopus. I don't know if you've seen them, they're literally just lines. And then I tried to put a little bit of glow-in-the-dark paint on top of that. The idea was to make it glow, but that didn't work. Turns out the heat in the oven actually destroyed the glow-in-the-dark properties of the paint, so all you see is just the yellow, which is fine. It still looks amazing, so I'm super happy about that. You can see there, it's awesome. But now we have to smash the cup, and smashing the cup was really hard, and I cannot stress this more than ever, or anything else I've ever done. Please, guys, please be super, super safe if you're ever going to do something like this. Oh my god, that towel's trash now. It is sliced up to bits. It's not funny. It sucks. And fun fact, took forever to smash this cup. I took multiple tries. It finally broke. It's on double speed right now. I'm really giving it. But we finally got there. I ended up smashing it up some more, taking a chunk out for the eye. You can see here I'm just putting it all back together again. I just used regular old crazy glue. I was a little worried there might be a residue left over from the crazy glue, but I kind of got lucky and all the residue went inside the cup. I don't know how I did that. I don't know what the point of it was, but somehow I managed to do it. So I don't care, and none of you would ever know if I hadn't mentioned it. So, yeah, it's something I've learned with Crazy Glue that I'm not a big fan of. But it works, and it worked great in this situation. So if you're going to copy this, I'm all for Crazy Glue. And this is where the fun begins. This is me trying to sculpt like a champ. So the idea that I'm going for here is I want to make a flat surface I can set the eye into to kind of build up the side of the head of the octopus, or Kraken, or whatever you'd like to call it. I have a general idea of what I'm doing. I actually ended up doing a lot of research this time before I started sculpting to try and figure out how I could be a better sculptor. And one of the channels I ended up following and learning from was Ace of Clay. I will try and remember to put a link down to his channel in the doobly-doo. But he taught me a whole bunch of tricks, and I watched a bunch of his videos. Really talented guy. But to help inset the eye, I just used a little snake of clay around the cabochon to help inset it. That way you've got kind of like that divot that octopus eyes have, because their eyes, fun fact, aren't actually like ours, which is like a separate entity. Theirs is just their skin, which is kind of weird. So you can't really kind of remove an octopus eye, I guess. That's just me slowly putting it in here. Again, I have the video at double speed, so this is a very slow and tedious process. If you are going to do it, please take your time, because rushing sucks. I actually cut it out of the video, but there are multiple attempts to try and sculpt the tentacles, and I rushed, and thus there are multiple attempts to do the tentacles. But you see, I'm just using the tip of a paintbrush here just to help smooth it out. And I'm quite happy with it. It turned out quite well. I really like it. I'm just kind of sad that in the end a lot of the detail ended up getting lost just because it is stuck behind a crack, so you don't really see that the eye is indented. You kind of just see the eye. So that's something to keep in mind if I do try and replicate this. Now for the tentacles, this is something that I learned, and this honestly was the best thing I ever could have learned from him, was to put a skeleton inside. And in this case, I'm just, like I said, I'm using some copper wire that I had, and it's so much better. I cannot stress how much better, because you actually get to design what it's going to look like before you're working on it. You can also make it a lot thinner. The first time I tried to sculpt some tentacles, they were really teardrop shaped, I guess would be the best way to describe them. Very, very much teardrop shaped, whereas this way I could get the long, skinny tentacles that I wanted, which you think of when you think of like a squid or an octopus. Although octopuses, now that I'm thinking about, are kind of wedgy. But anyway, I wanted long, thin tentacles. I wanted a very low taper. And as you can see, I was able to do that. And I ended up, once I rounded out the tentacles, I decided that I didn't want them round. I wanted them more triangular shaped. So you can see here, just adding some twists and turns around the wire. If you are going to do something like this, something I ended up learning after I had made the tentacles was you can actually wrap whatever your framing is in a very thin wire and just loop it around, and it creates like a scaffolding for the clay to better hold onto. Super awesome trick. I wish I had learned it because it does slide around a bit on me. Some of the other tentacle shapes were a little more difficult. But it is definitely just a fun fact. Take your time. And I can't stress taking your time enough. You actually really get to have fun shaping it, and that's actually kind of the best part. You can go over things. I ended up going over it with baby oil just to get out all my fingerprints. It's something you can use. You can get clay softener. which you can get at like craft stores and that, or I just took the cheap route of baby oil. If you are going to use baby oil, just a tip when you go to cook it, wait before you put it in. Give it like a day, because the oil will catch fire. You can see there on that tentacle, the tip, just the tip, caught fire. Hardens the clay, but now it's time to painting. I ended up using craft paints I just got at Michael's. I got a bunch of different brands. I don't remember them all, but I went with a seaweed green in this make. It's the perfect color, but my main complaint with this paint is, and it's not really a bad thing, but in this case it was for me because I was going very slow. The paint dried really quickly, and I'm doing this inside in an air-conditioned environment, so it shouldn't have dried that quickly. But I was able to take advantage of that because with the tentacles, I realized that what I could do, that streaking, I could use it to create a texture on the tentacles themselves. So what I end up doing after I'm done painting, you'll see in a sec, I end up going over the paint as it's getting tacky in relatively straight lines. I follow the contour of the tentacles and the shape of the tentacles to help create kind of like that wrinkly skin kind of idea. So I just went over and over and over again, and it worked. It actually worked out. It looks amazing. I love the little subtle texture. It's something you see when you look close up on the tentacles, which is awesome, which is what I wanted. It's the little details that really make a piece. And once that was done, it was time to do some highlighting. And I have no experience painting. I want all of you to know that right now. I have zero experience painting. My friends, though, a lot of my friends do Warhammer, and they talk about, and they've shown me different techniques, and they recommended videos I can watch for different techniques. One of the ones that I watched was actually my buddy Aegis Brand Studios. I will try and put a link in the video there if I remember to do that. I'm gonna have so many links. But Black Magic Craft was one of the other ones. But they talk about dry brushing. You just kind of like mash the paint into the bristles, from what I understand, and then like dry it out. And now I'm, by the way, trying to hold the tentacle in place because I've knocked it and I don't want it to fall over because the paint's drying. But yeah, so the idea is I would use the brush and just kind of like take some of the semi-dry paint and just kind of like force it on. And what it does is it doesn't completely coat the tentacle. It creates gaps, which is what I wanted. I wanted like a modeling on the tentacle. I wanted a difference in color. I wanted a way to show the back of the tentacle. And I think this worked out really, really well. I really like the effect it gave. But I cannot stress, make sure you get the paint out of the brush before you do it. Otherwise, it will just blop all over the tentacle that you're trying to do. And now I used just a little bit of floral foam and just sliced that up into a little wedge and wedged it down into the bottom there. And I'm just placing the tentacles in the various places and positions, kind of getting an idea where I want things to go. I had already kind of had an idea where I wanted the tentacles to go, but when I first picked the tentacles out, I had chosen 8 tentacles, and I had figured everything out great, and it looked amazing with the wire. But not recently, but as I made the tentacles, I realized that it wasn't going to work because the tentacles were a lot chunkier than the wiring. And so they took up a lot more space, and so it really started to feel crowded as I was making these tentacles. And so I made the call just to cut it at 5. I kind of wish there was a 6, but I'm really, really happy with the end result, as you'll see. So I think 5 was a good place to call it, especially because it allowed like that one tentacle to be a centerpiece that you could like follow to the middle. But it looked out, it turned good. You can see there for a sec. But I realized looking at it that you've got this big flat gap in the middle, and I realized the resin was going to show that, and I didn't want just this flat thing, so I decided to bulk it out. I just ended up taking some clay, wedging it in there, kind of like shaping it into a rounder edge, so it kind of looked like the body of the Kraken was pressed against the cup. I just ended up throwing it in the toaster oven to cook it. I didn't care if it really cooked through. Like, it's a really thick piece, so I should have taken, like, if I wasn't dipping it in resin, I definitely would have cooked it longer. I basically cooked it long enough to get the outside hard, and then I just tossed it in place. I made sure to get it all painted up. I ended up putting a lighter stripe down the middle of it. Yeah, it's... I'm really happy I did this. I'm really glad I thought of this, because I think it would have looked a heck of a lot worse if I hadn't. So... And then once it was done, I just ended up crazy gluing it into place. Painted it, as you can see there. Nothing special. I didn't even bother to cover the one side fully in paint, because I'm like, no one's going to see this. It's going to be completely covered. And just held it in place. I ended up filling in the gaps between the original piece of the Kraken holding the eye and the backing with some super glue. If you look really closely in the finished product, you can actually see that I missed a couple spots. Shh, don't tell anyone. But yeah, it worked out great. I ended up covering over the hot glue with some of the darker paint, and it looks really good. Like, unless you're really looking, you don't notice. So I was quite happy there. As you can see, yeah, it looks bad right now, but with the resin, you don't notice it. And now the resin pour, I just use Easy Cast, Easy Coat, Easy something. It's one of the brands of resin you can just pick up at Michael's. It's a 1-to-1 ratio epoxy resin. I really like it. It's very simple. I don't need a scale. I really should get a scale, but I've gotten pretty dang good at eyeballing it. So as you can see here, I'm just eyeballing it. And I use the containers to help eyeball how much is going in. I'm gonna be honest, it's very weird for me to work with such large quantities of resin. I'm usually doing very small amounts, just enough to fill the top of a bottle cap, because I'm normally doing origami work, and I coat my origami in this resin just to help preserve it. And this is just regular old food dye that I'm mixing in, nothing special, nothing amazing, just like over-the-counter food dye. The idea is here, I want a really, really, really dark blue, so I just ended up dropping in as many drops as I could. I got the color that I wanted, which was awesome. The idea here is too, because when you look down into the cup, you can see the foam. I was unsure as to whether or not I should have painted it. I'm glad I didn't. I didn't think it was necessary. It may have actually helped with some of the bubbling, but again, because what I did here is I did this in multiple pours. So because I did it in multiple pours, I kind of hid some of the mistakes with this first pour, some of the bubbling with the other layers of resin. And I think that turned out great. And the reason why you end up doing multiple pours and multiple batches is, as you will see, I'm gradually going to lower the amount of food dye that I'm putting in the resin to color it, bit by bit by bit. And the idea is it's going to create a more and more translucent and transparent water effect, so you'll actually see the tentacles going down into the deep dark blue, and I really like that effect that I created. I think it looks really, really good. Yeah, and as you can see, it's just bit by bit, more and more resin is being added until it eventually gets to the lightest color. And when it finally dries, it's done. not completely done, but at least the main pouring of the resin into the cup is done. I also should make a note, if you're going to do this, make sure you seal any cracks with super glue, or not super glue, hot glue. You can easily pry that out later. It'll just help any cracks, or rather not any cracks, but help hold stuff in. As you can see here, I'm coating the resins. Oh my god, I apologize. Can't talk. Coating the tentacles in a thin layer of resin. The idea is I want to make them look like they're wet. They looked really good without the resin, but adding the resin just put them over the top, and I really like that. Looks so good right now with the wet tentacles. The idea that they just come up out of the water. And this stuff is amazing. This is the best thing I've learned from resin work and people who do resin. This is called gel medium. It is used for acrylic paints. The idea is it helps extend the life of a paint, I guess. But what's amazing is if you smear this on top of a resin, what you end up creating is a rough, uneven surface that you can kind of like shape and sculpt and mold to look like waves. And so that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm just with a popsicle stick, just gently back and forthing my hand to try and create waves and turbulence on the surface. And though it looks awful right now, like I've just thrown whipped cream on top of it, it dries crystal clear. And that is the amazing part about it. You can add, I'm supposed, a dye to it to keep the white color, but I wanted it to dry clear. I don't want like the caps of waves or anything. I just wanted it to look as is. And that's really all it took to get this done.
And it's finished. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I don't really know how the video editing turned out. I know there's a couple moments there probably where you saw nothing but the table I was working on, and I apologize. I'm not used to really working with a camera yet, nor do I have a real setup on how to do this. I'm literally improvising with like an old turtle light and some stuff and stacking things up and holding it. It's kind of janky, I'm not gonna lie, but this is done. It is almost everything I imagined. Not as many tentacles as I had hoped. I was gonna do 8, but pardon me, I ended up going with 5 because it was already looking, I wanted you to see the water, but it was already looking a little crowded. I also wanted you to be able to see the Kraken pressing itself up against the glass. I love the little eye. I'm so happy about that. All in all, I'm super happy with everything that we're doing. I'm really happy that the paint ended up making the texture on the tentacles. I thought that was really cool. I'm actually really kind of proud of it for my first little try. It's absolutely adorable. I think it is amazing. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys appreciate it. Let me know if there's any tips you can give me in the comments that could help me shoot a little better. I'd be greatly appreciative of that, because again, not the greatest at this, still doing my own little thing and trying to, fudge my way through it. But yeah, greatest pun in the world, the Teacup's Kraken. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until I see you again, please take care. Wish you all the very best. Bye-bye.